Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Diced Again. I'm your host, of course, and I'm joined by Crowdog. Hello.
Hello, Keith. How are your bits?
Oh, my bits are fine, lad. Thanks. How are your bits?
My bits are all over the fucking place, but we're
Oh,
getting
good.
there.
Your bits are
Um,
in bits, as you'd say.
you're not wrong. So, how's your Blood Bowl been?
Sure, it is fine. Obviously, I completely forgot to mention that this is episode 2 Eurovision Bowl. So we'll be talking about Eurovision Bowl, which is a tournament I ran, of course, the weekend before last. Um, I thought about this afterwards. It probably wasn't the best move to have episode 1 Euro Bowl, episode 2 Eurovision Bowl. They're a bit similar.
I suppose for episode titles, yeah, and are our buddies over in the UK think we're very Eurocentric now?
We are. Well, sure, I mean, look, we had the elections there and, no talks of our exit anyway. So that's good.
Kabir, so this was Eurovision Bowl. It was your first time organising a tournament, is that right?
It was, yeah, yeah. First time stepping into the TO box, I suppose. And very funnily, during this week, the NAF released a new TO badge. So if you go onto my NAF page, you can see a lovely, sexy, like royal purple yellow badge with a big TO stamp on it. So it was worth doing it for that alone, of course. But yeah,
Oh,
it was my
100%. If
first
I'd known there
time.
was a badge, I would have done it sooner.
See, they only started it after I did a tournament, so they just wanted to reward me really for my hard work and effort.
So it was nepotism.
Sure. Like most things, there's a lot of nepotism involved in Eurovision Bowl. In fairness, we'll get into that, I suppose, later on. You've a series of questions for me, as you were, well, I suppose, the host for this episode. So I'll try to not talk as much, which might be quite hard.
Well, otherwise it'll just be yourself talking to yourself, wouldn't
Wouldn't be the first time. Yeah.
it? Touche. So take us through it. Organize it. How did you find that?
Yeah, well, fully enough, organizing a tournament in a country you don't currently live in has some interesting ramifications, I suppose. Like, so for those who don't know, I live in Scotland, and I obviously ran the tournament in my hometown, back home in Millstreet, County Cork, in Ireland. So the mammy was involved a bit. Um, so we got it. I got in touch with the old. So funnily enough, I wanted to host it in the hotel in Millstreet, but the pricks decided to close down.
That's for sale.
So it's for
Yeah.
sale, yeah. So then I was kind of short on places to host it, so I thought, right, J Hall probably be fine. But then because sure, neither myself nor the parents are involved with the GAA, I hadn't been in there for like, I don't know, 10, 12 years, I suppose, up until about 2 weekends ago. Like, I remembered there being like tables and chairs and stuff, and I was kind of like, sure, you don't have to go to the bother of renting stuff
That's what
out
you
for
want.
tournaments. It is, yeah. Um, so the mother took charge of organizing, basically getting the venue, I suppose, through the WhatsApps and stuff. And then there were some problems with the old military GAA, but we won't go into that. So, um, no, we won't go
Well,
into
the
it. We
question
won't go.
was, were you going to have a roof for the venue, wasn't it?
Well, was I going to have a venue first of all? Yeah, because the person organizing it changed hands, shall we say? So there was a bit of. So I mean, the fact was the venue still booked up in the air, definitely, and then they also got a grant for the GA Hall, so they put a new roof on it. Um, about 2 weeks before the tournament, so that was pretty fun. Um, the venue itself, well, it's definitely dated. There's a reason why they got a grant to do it up. It was a lot worse than I remember it, to be honest. I
Banging
definitely would.
1970s off it.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Like so, I knew the heating wasn't probably going to be working. Um, and when I got there, a quarter of the heating was working, so I threw it on like 2 or 3 times, but I don't think it actually warmed up the place at all. Um, and then the weather on the day as well. We had a red weather warning, which was obviously really fun and really exciting, and definitely didn't add to the stress of running a tournament at all.
No, not ideal for the anxiety, was it?
No, no. So going into the tournament, it was looking to
Because of
be.
course, to top it all off, the red warning was pretty much entirely localized to County Cork, wasn't it?
It was Cork and Galway were the two that got the red warning. Um, and I suppose Kerry as well, right? I don't know actually. Maybe Kerry wasn't. But yeah, so funnily enough, we had that to deal with, and it was coming in from like midnight on the Friday to 10 a.m., and everyone was supposed to be arriving at like 10 or half 10 for the kickoff. So we had some discussions, we had some dropouts. So in the end, true, well, two people dropped out for other reasons, but we had six dropouts, meaning that we went from 32 down to 26. Um, but
But
we got
that's
on fine.
still a very respectable size for a tournament, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Like to be fair, 30. Like if we got all 32, it would have been the biggest one there, I think, ever in Ireland. Well, in the Republic anyway. And still 26 is probably about the average you'd be getting, right? So like Daisha Bowl and Off the Bowl and stuff like that would all be getting about 26. So I was still happy enough with those numbers. And it was a really good
It
sign
was. It
of.
was a good turnout.
It was, yeah, and like having people like even just having like 32 sign up, right? Just a real credit to everyone and showing how much people have an appetite for playing tabletop in Ireland, right?
Yeah, it shows the hunger is there, doesn't it?
It does.
Our first tournament since Greece. Well,
Well,
for
in
us in Ireland
Ireland,
anyway. You've been doing
yeah.
them weekly.
Well, in the Republic as well. So there was also there was Titanic above in Belfast, and there was Cat's Murder Bowl in Bangor, I think. Bangor. In County Down anyway. So
County
yeah,
Down, yeah.
like, but yeah, it was the first one we held. And yeah, good turnout. Good. Everyone told me they had a great time. So that's the main thing really at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to expect people to lie to your face, though.
You do, yeah. Well, I gave him an anonymous feedback form as well last night, and no one has said that I was terrible, and no one's really hated the venue too much either, which I'm quite surprised. Honestly, I demand people to double down. Things won't change if you're going to say the venue is fine. Then I'm not going to put any effort into changing it.
Yeah, well, it looked cold in the photos.
I mean, you say it looked cold. Kaelon went around in a t-shirt for the day, so honestly, it was
Probably
cold.
says more about Kaelan than the venue.
It probably does, in fairness. Yeah. No, so it was cold. I people well warned to wear jackets and wrap up warm. Because I did kind of figure that there wasn't going to be any heating. And it's a big hall. And to be fair, it warmed up a bit with a good few of us in there. And I had free tea and coffee available. So anyone who was wanted to avail of that did. Um, and that's kind of where the nepotism came in as well. So my aunt runs the centre across the road. So funnily enough, the J Hall didn't have any cups. Had all the plates, had all the forks and knives and everything. Had a Burker boiler, and then like just no cups. So I had to get a sleeve of Frank and Honest coffee cups, free of charge, of course, and then a bunch of Centra tea and coffee, and sugar and milk, I suppose, for the people. So I was able to provide them, and
Yeah, and
people were able to warm up, which is pretty good.
and of course, if anyone from Musgraves is listening, damn, this is all said in jest, and none of this actually happened.
Oh no! If anyone is listening, I paid for them. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So
But in
yeah, so
saying
weather
that,
wasn't ideal.
No, no, no. The weather was not ideal. We had some people come very early in the morning, and then we had other people saying, "Oh, we'll hang off until the red warning." Um, like, whatever. People made their own choices as to when to come. I drove down at like 8 a.m. in the morning to make sure the hall still had power, because that was like one of the real concerns I had with the red warning. Like, not so much about people
Do you know
struggling to,
that didn't even cross my mind.
yeah, like not so much people struggling to get to the venue. Like fair enough, there could be trees down or whatever, and if they can't get to there, they can't get there. But I was like, Jesus, it'd be fair. It's funny now if I told everyone to come and there was no power. But thankfully there was power. And John's Millstreet was like pretty much wholly unaffected by the red weather warning, so that was nice.
Yeah, and of course, I suppose before we should go any further, we should get into why was it called Eurovision Ball?
Oh yeah, well I suppose Eurovision obviously is pretty synonymous with Ireland, and Eurovision was actually held in Millstreet in 1993, 31 years ago, which is like the only time. So Ireland have hosted it 7 times, right? And it's the only time it wasn't held in Dublin, so they held it in Millstreet, which was a great success for the town, and it was. It's that old Florida Ted joke that they don't want them to win it because it's too expensive.
Sounds like he wanted us to lose the Eurovision.
Yeah, yeah. So funnily enough, the local community and the businesses and everything all came together and essentially, I think basically made a deal with RTE so that RTE wouldn't have to pay. So usually like they pay, I don't know, I heard like 250,000 in order to put it on. So the businesses in Mill Street came together and decided to like waive that fee and even like help them pay for it to set it up in Mill Street because they knew to get all the business and everything with everyone coming. But of course, Mill Street's a terrible place to hold a Eurovision. Obviously, back in 1993, it was a lot smaller and there was more places to stay. But people were staying in Killarney and Mallow and all that. So it's not as ideal as having it say in like Dublin, right, where everyone could just stay in the one city and travel. But yeah, so 1993 was a pretty big year for the Eurovision, and great bustle and hustle in the Green Glens, and sure Noel C was bringing people into the Green Glens all the time. We had Disney on Ice and we have the European show jumping and everything every year. So it was kind of cool to. I mean, I wasn't alive, but all the family and everyone I know in Mill Street say it was a great time to be in Mill Street.
It's nuts because like I don't know how you would put it into context for someone living in the UK or somewhere else. Like it's literally a one street village.
I mean, it is. It is. I
Like the
mean, it's a
host of
town.
Eurovision Song Contest there is insane.
It's bonkers. Yeah, it's
A
bonkers.
town is being very generous.
Look, it's called Mill Street Town, right? It's not called Mill Street Village. We have a Garda station and everything. Sure, like
You do, yeah. Oh, you've all the mod cons.
all the mod cons, like
You're getting internet there next week, are you?
we might. Yeah, I hear they're installing the full fiber. All right, yeah, sometime. Try
Is
would
Bill
know.
Gates coming out personally, or
He might. He might. Johnny Gates, more like I suppose. Um, yeah, so that was fine. It was grand, and we had a fella. I don't know if that was the right time to say it or not, but we had a fella who's pretty big in Mill Street. He holds the website and all that, and he came in. He did a little interview. He said hello to everyone, and he interviewed myself and two of my lads, two of the local boys, for the website and for his little radio station thing he does. And I told him it was called Eurovision Ball, and off he went out to the car and brought in stickers for everyone from the Eurovision 31 years ago, which is just mental, isn't it? That he just has stickers from then just in his car. So everyone
just
got
lying
some of
around?
them.
He's like, I knew
Yeah.
the day would come when I needed them.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Yeah. So Yeah, and we had a special twist
The
on it.
wife has
We
been
had
giving out to him for these fucking stickers take up space in the car, falling out of the glove box every time she opens it.
yeah. And he was like, right, finally, I can get rid of him. The time finally came.
He, he went home. I knew it. I told you. I had to get a use for them now. You were laughing at me.
Yeah, I found a hole from right. Got rid of him. Bunch of lads came down here now from all sorts, and I shafted them onto them, and they'll finally into their glove box. Yeah, so it was pretty cool, and we had everyone, well, not everyone, but a load of people got to try out the Lord of the Dance, which is a special star player I made, in the image of Michael Flatley, which, I wasn't actually in Eurovision 1993. I believe it was like 94.
Of course,
sure.
we didn't actually use the image of Michael Flatley.
I mean, we did.
Inspired by
Inspired by
appearance to people, real or imagined, is purely coincidental.
Of course. So yeah, loads of people got to have a half with him, as was the special rule, including my last game had him, and I sort of wish I didn't have him. Funnily enough, I may have lost that game purely because he was in the team, but who's to say? Yeah, so that's
seeing as you brought it up, your special rule for the tournament was it the bottom three tables had a special player that played one half for each team?
It wasn't quite the bottom three. So basically, the first round we had four painted minis, which were painted up by my good friend Cladboy. So he painted them up, and then I gave my other friend Dr. Disco the task of assigning four random tables round one. So he just went around and placed them on the table and gave him a score sheet, I suppose, and the rules. And that seemed to work pretty well round one. Then round two, I don't think I quite got all four of them back. I think one of them went missing at one point, so I think there was only three of them in round two. And I think in round three there might have only been two or three again. Yeah. I got all the minis back in the end anyway, so that was good. But then, there was also people had the choice of just not using them as well, because I didn't want them to completely impact a game, right? I didn't want someone, say, if they're in top table game 2, I didn't want them to be like, okay, here you go, have this star player basically for a half, enjoy your drive. So people were able to say no, and one table said no to me in game 3. I went around I picked up one and I walked past and I was going back to my own table and I was like, oh, have you used them? Would you like to use them? And your man was like, no, I haven't used them. No, I don't want to use them. And I was like, fair enough. And I carried on. So that was fine. It's
so
exactly what I wanted.
Line?
He was, oh God, he was what? Movement 6, strength 3, Edge 2, passing 3, AV 9+, I think. And then he had dodge, sidestep, jump up, pogo stick, very long legs. So basically dodge, sidestep, jumps up, and goes anywhere on a 2+, basically. So he was a little good. And honestly, maybe yeah, just a bit good. I think having used them and having played against them, I think I would probably tone him down if I was to use him next time. And I don't think I will use him next time. I think he was one and done. And I'm glad that I didn't, you see some tournaments and they go, well, everyone gets him for the entire tournament. I'm absolutely thrilled I didn't implement that rule. Honestly, maybe he should have just been for bottom tables alone. That, like, say the bottom 3 tables for the entire tournament or something. I think definitely could have been improved. Some of the logistics of implementing him could have been improved on for sure. But then again, I suppose with the caveat of anyone, like literally if one of the 2 players say no, then that's kind of fine as well, right? I wasn't forcing anyone to use them.
Yeah.
So he was quite good. He scored some touchdowns.
You gave a copy to everybody that went, didn't you? and he's a
Yes.
nice little proxy for like Jardel Fresh Breeze or somebody like that.
Yeah, like any sort of star player proxy will be fine. Yeah, so everyone who came got Lord of the Dance miniature, and they also got a mat, like a dice tray from some company who I can't remember the name of.
Somebody
That's
that
good.
definitely didn't sponsor you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I might have a look for that. Yeah. Was it Euromats?
Seeing as they did give you
Euromats
the
EU?
sponsorship, it'd be nice to give them a
Yeah,
shout out.
yeah. Euromats EU. They're the lads. They're very good. They're a sound out.
A great bunch of lads.
Yeah, in fact, it wasn't them at all. It was Deep Cut Studio. There we go.
Okay, so disregard.
Disregard, yeah. And I suppose since we're on the mention of it, the Hungry Troll also gave me a lovely sponsorship. And most of the prizes, except the actual like top three, were Hungry Troll, which is pretty cool. So yeah, Deep Cut Studio, they also provided a pitch for the winner, who we'll get on to later on. And yeah, Hungry Troll and the dice mats. So everyone got, it was different, right? It was different from giving someone dice. Because I think at every tournament, you show up and it's like, oh, have some dice. And it's like, okay, I have 100 of them, but thanks. But it's nice, right, getting dice as well, because then especially if both players are using the same D6 for the tournament, then that's kind of cool as well. There's no slightly, well, if there's any like slight percentage of advantage or anything, you're both getting it. So that was that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was a lot. So how did you find I don't know, I suppose having to go through the rosters, make sure everything was rules compliant? Was it a giant pain in the hole, or
No, it wasn't really, to be honest. Um, I suppose I made things a bit easier for myself in the fact that I just banned stacking for the tournament. Um, so that made things very easy, right? Once I'd set up all the packs on tour play. So I suppose I made it a bit complicated for myself, really, in the fact that every team had 4 skill packs, or yeah, to choose from. So say like tier 1, whatever, you could take 6 primary skills, or like 4 primary and a secondary, or 3 primary and access to a star, basically. And then tier 2 to 6 also had like a second pack where you could take like 2 stars or something. So I mean, once I'd all that sorted and balanced before the tournament, it was pretty simple on tour play, right? Because tour play just does all the validation for you, and especially when you don't have stacking or anything like that, it's pretty easy to see what's compliant and what's not, because it does it pretty much automatically for you. And then the only thing that really cropped up was one person wanted to not take the secondary and instead opt to take a primary skill. So I had to have a bit of a think as to whether or not I'd allow that. And then I just did. Because I think that's pretty fair, isn't it? If you want to forego your secondary.
yeah,
So I
I
had to.
can't really envisage a situation where it's going to break a rule set.
No, no. So I think it was. So the particular case was Pro Elves, right? And he just wanted to take an extra dodge or an extra block or something on a lino instead of giving it like guard. Which was fine. I said, yeah, Grant, no problem. And I like edited the rules pack, and I just said, well, if anyone else wants to do it, just let me know. And like it did mean I had to set up a specific like rules pack, or like pack option, where it didn't include the secondary for that
Just for that
race
person.
in that tier. Yeah. So there was a bit more extra work there. And then I suppose just in terms of going up to the tournament, I had a couple of like redrafts of the rules, I suppose. Which was mainly just taking a look at which stars were allowed, not allowed. Some teams got dropped down a couple of tiers. So I think Black Orcs were the last one. They were on like tier 4, and I dropped them to tier 5. Just because I looked at everything else in tier 5, and I was like, wow, I'm really saying Black Orcs are better than Renegades or something like that. Which they're not. So I was kind of looking at them like, yeah,
If
I
anything, they're
can't.
possibly even worse. Yeah.
They probably are, yeah. Yeah. So
And you did, even though they were only released a couple of weeks beforehand, you did load the new Chaos Wars, didn't you?
yeah, so the new Chaos Dwarves were allowed. I'd moved them to tier 2
And their
but
stars.
and their stars, yeah. So I was always going
Come
to
here.
allow
So
the
you didn't
stars.
think that you needed to. Sorry, you didn't think you needed to ban Zarg Madai?
No, I didn't actually. I thought he was fine. Yeah. um,
Are you sure he's not
yeah.
overpowered?
Well, look, who's to say what's overpowered and what's not overpowered, right? I personally didn't. Um, so I suppose just to go back on the Chaos Dwarves overall first, right? So I dropped them from tier 1 to tier 2 for the tournament, and then when they got redone, I put a poll in the Discord, to see what the general feel was from people, whether they wanted them to drop it from tier 2 to tier 3. Now, for my tournament, dropping them from tier 2 to tier 3 basically didn't mean much, right? It basically meant that instead of like 7 primaries in tier 2, you got 7 primaries and a secondary in tier 3. Like, that's all. You basically got an extra secondary skill. Which doesn't really come into it much, right? Unless, you want to take a Minotaur or whatever, and then you can get a block Minotaur, which is pretty cool. But it was a very tight vote. If I recall, it was like 5 votes no, or 5 votes yes to 6 votes no. So I was just like, right, well, fair enough. Majority rules. They'll stay in tier 2. And no one took them. So I was
After all
good,
that.
wasn't it? After all that, yeah, no one took them. And then in terms of the stars, I did a big like revamp, I suppose, of what was banned and what wasn't banned. Which I actually took out a lot of stars that were banned, and just was like, so I made like tour play and the rules pack back in April. So people had been like submitting rosters left and right, for a good like 5 months at that point, and nothing really came up as to like, oh, this is kind of broken. This is kind of broken. I probably should change this. To the point where when I was doing this redraft in October, there was like one build with a star player. So I was like, okay, people clearly don't have the appetite to take star players. So, but one of the main reasons why I was unbanning stars was because with the new Chorfs being released, I felt it was important to have all 3 or 4 Chorf star players available. Because tabletoppers love star players. We, as an Irish community, have a very limited opportunity, I suppose, to get to use star players anyway, right? Like, we don't have that many tabletop tournaments in general.
Tournaments.
So I didn't want to come along and just be like, right. So if someone had bought, say, Hetark or Zarg Madai or whoever else, the other guys, right, and they wanted to take him to a tournament, I didn't want to just be like, no, can't do it, banned. And in the end, like, there was maybe what, 5 rosters with stars. And one of them was Hetark Ogres. And in fact, I had, besides the fellow who took Hetark Ogres, there was another 2 people who I knew were considering taking Hetark Ogres. So Hetark may be a little good, question mark.
Although the Hitak Ogres didn't even win Stunty Cup, did they? So
They didn't. No. It was the non-Hetark Ogres, I believe, won Stunty Cup. Just regular ogres. But yeah, like even the guy who was bringing Hetark Ogres fully admitted he was like, yeah, he was pretty good. He was just like, yeah, I'm not like, he's he'll fully admit he's not the best at Blood Bowl, and he's very much I'm gonna go and have fun. Like, he took Acorn Necro to Deja Bowl in the Euro Bowl rules, um, because he just wanted to have a little squirrel running around the place hitting things. So very much a fun harbor. And he kind of went like, yeah, Hatark Ogres in the hands of someone who's halfway decent at Blood Bowl could get some results. Which was kind of interesting to see, right? I mean, nothing new, right? It wasn't anything like, I didn't go, God, Hatark Ogres could be quite good here. But yeah, so I just felt it was important to give the people of the Irish Blood Bowl community an opportunity to use the star players, right? And of course, Bleed Bowl coming up again has a perfect opportunity for using stars as well. So yeah, it was good, but
Very good.
not overly abused. I don't think. I don't think anyone, like, the mega stars were still banned, right? And we didn't see any like Vareg snotlings or anything. But I suppose it kind of depends on the tournament as well, right? In any tournament we run in Ireland, you're going to get like 3 Necro, you're going to get 3 Corn, and then it's just what else is there? Who else shows up?
Well, I mean, I think in every tournament they're very popular picks, aren't they?
They are.
Those two
Yeah,
specifically.
for sure. But like, you could you could nearly pick what most people are going to take in an Irish tournament, I feel. And then there's like, I'd say 50% you could be pretty certain of what's being picked. And then the rest is just like, oh, what will someone take this time? Because they like taking different rosters. They like trying different stuff. But yeah, some people just like playing with the same toys all the time, right?
Which is fair enough.
It is.
Yeah, but of course, surprisingly, there was 3 Imperial nobility, was there? Or was it 2?
There was there 3? There was definitely 3 at one point. There was, yes, there was 3.
I'll just double check there for the boring.
Yeah, no, Papa Bao, Fiki, and Bozzy Boz all took knobs. Yeah, it was something I mentioned in the Euro Bowl preview as well, right? Was that Papa Bao went for Zug knobs, whereas Fiki just used his secondary to give a block ogre. Which made way more sense to me, because if you like compare what Fiki took and what Papa Bao took, it's like night and day, right? Like, Papa Bao had to drop a bodyguard and like a reroll and and one of the bench, I think, in order to get Zug. And then Fiki was just like, I'll have everything I want and a block ogre, please.
Yeah, you do need the bodyguards on nobility, don't you?
You do, yeah, for sure. And I can't even remember. Like, Papa Bao didn't do bad. He finished pretty. I mean, he finished above Fiki, right? And then Bozzy Boz had a decent showing of himself as well. Coming in a 10th, right? But yeah, like, funny enough, Papa Bao, who this is like twice now I've mentioned how I didn't like his build. He still finished like the top of the knobs, and like 8th or 5th or 8th or something like that. So it's not even a bad showing. Because Zug isn't bad, is he?
No, it turns out he's alright. Strength
He's
5,
alright.
mighty blow, block, yeah.
But he's basically just a knob ogre, like, just without bonehead.
Well, that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
So originally, you had 32 participants, so presumably you anticipated not playing.
Well, at 32, I was 32 including me, right? So.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
So I was going into the Friday anticipating playing. Well, I think I had 2 people drop out on the Thursday anyway, before the weather and everything. So we were down to 30. So I was still playing. And then we lost 4 others, so I had to play. Now, Cladboy, who he goes to a few tournaments, but he's not massively in love with playing Blood Bowl. He would have easily just not played, but there's no point in him not playing and me not playing. So, yeah. So I ended up playing anyway, yeah. Because we had 26, but I think I was always going to play at the way the people were falling and the way people were signing up. So I brought my Nurgle, and that was it was a lot of fun. I
It's
mean, it
one of those
wasn't.
teams, isn't it, that if you wanted to use every NAF race or every race in a NAF tournament, it's one of those, 1-day races, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I think so. Like 1 day race with like a decent build, it's good to bring them and tick them off. So I was torn between like Nurgle and like goblins, but I honestly thought that goblins would wreck my head in trying to play. Whereas like Nurgle, they're just like, they're a bad chaos team basically, right? So I can kind of just play them without concentrating, which was very lucky because I didn't have any time to concentrate on the games at all. Like the first game was probably the most I had time to concentrate. Because people were finally, after arriving, everyone was set up, and then I was able to just sit down, and I had to play against Danton, who I tipped to win the tournament, funnily enough. He was definitely one of
Oh, yeah,
mine.
he's pretty good at Blood Bowl, yeah.
He is, and he was on Rats. So we had a good game, in fairness to us. But he got a 1 turn, so I did my drive. We had a blizzard. He got a 1 turn and scored, and then he scored early on his drive, and I had like 3 turns or something like that to drive down the pitch, and it didn't work out anyway. He had a pretty good turn 16 to make it really hard for me because we were still in a blizzard, so I had to try and push. But Skaven are pretty good at doing elf defense, and Nurgle aren't necessarily the best at getting forward and creating space if you don't get removals. So yeah, he made it hard for me. I diced to roll for a chance to draw in the game, but ultimately, I didn't. So I lost that one, and then game 2 was absolutely hectic. So I was saying to yourself before we went live that something like maybe a third or around a third of the participants didn't have tour play because we have a large proportion of kids and stuff in the tournaments. So some of them didn't have tour play. Some of the adults who
Well, they probably don't have phones anyway, do they?
Exactly, yeah. So they didn't have phones. Some of the adults maybe necessarily weren't that used to using tour play anyway, or like that experience at tournaments. So I had to do a lot of the manualing admin, right? I had to like put in game results like every round and put extra touchdowns in and extra casualties, and people were just coming over to me while I was trying to play a game. So yeah, so game 2 was like the absolutely most hectic one. It was honestly the most hectic game of Blood Bowl I've ever played in my life. So I was playing against Gordon and his pro elves. But we were sitting next to a table where 2 of Gordon's kids were playing off against each other. So they were back and forth chatting to us. People were coming up to me asking me questions about Lord of the Dance, about rules questions or whatever. Then we had the fella from the website in Millstreet come in, and he did an interview with us for like 10 minutes. Gordon had a phone call to make. It was just all going on. So I'd say like between it all, there was about 2 turns in the entire game that I actually got like time to think about. But in fairness, I did quite well at removing some pro elves, but Gordon took his chance, came in, sacked the ball, and ran away with it. And then, there was like 2 or 3 turns of sacking the ball back and forth. And in the end, Glorial was just like 3+, 3+, 3+, 3+, 3+, jump over, 3+, hand off, score. And it's like, oh, okay. Set up again. So, yeah, so that was game 2. And my God, like, if I wasn't like stressed and my head like wasn't unfocused, it was just that really sent it over the edge. And because of all this admin stuff and everything, there was like I didn't have time to go and get lunch or anything. So I had my breakfast before the thing started. Well, I had half a roll before everyone arrived, and then I had the other half of the roll in game one versus Danton. And then I didn't eat again until 9 o'clock that night. So there was a lot
Oh,
of
not ideal.
not ideal. No, no. And like I didn't even have time to get tea and coffee. So thankfully, Doctor Disco went on two tea runs for me. Because he was finished his game was quite early, so I was like, any chance you go make me a cup of tea here, please? So yeah, like in fairness, people are giving me a lot of credit for organizing the day, but in the end, like I couldn't have done it without like Doctor Disco and like even Kalon and Fiki, um, and spelling mistakes. Like they were fantastic with setting up the hall and everything in the morning, and Cladboy was on the train run, bringing people up and down. So like even though I was running the event, I'd a lot of help from the community, and it made things go a lot more seamless than if I was, soloing it, right? Um, yeah, so game two was just a nightmare. Like, myself and Gordon for the
So if you had the opportunity again, would you rather be non-playing TO, or do you think it was just because it was your first tournament?
I think a lot of it was because it wasn't even that it was the
Would
first
things be more
tournament.
streamlined in the future?
I think a lot of it was genuinely the weather. Um, So because of the weather, it meant that people weren't there at 10:30 to start off. So it meant we were like 20 minutes behind the entire day. To the point where like lunches and things just couldn't happen at like the right time. Um, so like I don't know, the first lunch was supposed to happen at like 12:30, but the round wasn't finished until like 1:15. So that was the lunchtime, basically gone. So then I gave people like 15 minutes or whatever. But it's like anything in tournaments, right? You'll have people playing faster and slower than everyone. So I was giving everyone like the full time to play games, whereas some people are finished after an hour and a half, so they had time to go and have lunch and stuff. Whereas between everything and like adminning and stuff, I didn't have time to have lunch. And that's more of a fault on myself than anything else, right? Um, in
So do you think
terms
you
of
should have been a bit more ruthless with your finish times and start
maybe,
times?
well, in fairness, like I probably should have been a bit more adhering to the schedule, but when you're already 20 minutes behind the schedule to start off with, it's kind of hard to be like ruthless on it then. So I still call games. I still gave people like an hour warning, and then maybe gave them an extra 5 minutes after like the time should have been up. Game round three, I had to call a game. And round two, there was like two people well after the round, and I was just like, lads, you need to finish up, like, so like it was only like in those times when I got to have a break because I'd all the admin done, people were still playing, and I was like, okay, good. um, like I let people have a bit more time to finish games because I was at the side anyway trying to put in all the results. So I was like, lads, look, you've 5 minutes. I need to go and put all the results in. But I'll call your game after that. So maybe a bit more strict. But at the same time, we were supposed to finish at 6:30 and we finished at 7. Um, but that did mean there was like very little time for breaks and stuff unless you finished a bit earlier in the rounds.
And did anybody travel by train to the tournament?
There was,
Might as
yeah,
well
there.
be airing on them then as well.
Yeah, well, so that was the reason. So the main reason we were starting off, so registration was 10 to 10:30 because the train in from Mallow into Millstreet arrives at 10 to 10. So I could have just had it, 9 to 9:30 as most tournaments do it, and then people just couldn't come by train or they're arriving late or whatever. So I thought for the sake of it, for the sake of like an extra hour, just have slightly shorter breaks. So we had, I think we had 6 in the end, 5 or 6, and there was two that dropped out that were supposed to take the train as well. So I think people made use of it, and I'm glad that people were able to, get on in Mallow or get on in Dublin and come down, and it was pretty cool. So I'd do the same
It does
again next
streamline
year.
things a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and like it's good to make use of it and like save people driving down as well, right? So, like I think three
And it's
three or
fine
four of the
because you can have
lads.
like a bit of a nap on the train on the way home, or
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I've never gotten the train to a tournament, um, but it's easier for the lads as well to chill out, right? So I think we had four come from Mallow and we two come from Dublin. Well, I mean, they all came from Mallow anyway, but some of them only got on at Mallow, um, which made it easier for them. And then we had Cladboy who did two runs. I think picked lads up in Millstreet train, brought them up to the venue, and took them back down again at the end. So. Yeah, I'd do the same again next year, I think. Hopefully just don't have a red weather warning in the middle of it to delay other
yeah, you
people
shouldn't have
getting
done
in.
that. It was a stupid idea.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah. I think I'd play again as a TO, honestly. Um I don't think it was the worst thing in the world. People like, everyone else is pretty well trained at tournaments, right? And they knew to play to the time, whatever. There was no real issue, except the final game. I had to. Well, I basically came over and I was like, right, lads, any chance of finishing up? And they both just agreed to take a 0-0 draw, which was nice, but it also could have had a big impact on the tournament had one of them won the game because they were in like table 3. I don't necessarily think
Yes.
well, so, but there had been time shouted, and like I gave them more time while I was doing all the other admins, and they were still on like I don't know turn 6 of the second half, so there was no point in everyone waiting like 20 minutes for them to finish when the game should have been finished anyway. But I was very very happy that the two boys were immediately were just like, yeah, we'll do a draw, we'll just call it there. And it wasn't like, oh, can you give us 5 more minutes or whatever? Because there'd already been like 2 or 3 5 more minutes elsewhere in the rest of the rounds while I was doing the admins and stuff. So, yeah. So I'd play again, definitely. But yeah, I suppose some of it is more of the red weather warning, and then also maybe lack of experience for sure. Would have been a bit more chill if I didn't have to play.
Definitely. Would have given you so much more time for the admin, but you got through it anyway.
We did, yeah, we got through it, and no one came up to me and was like, that was shit, so that's helpful, isn't it?
What was I going to say? So, who won your tournament?
Well, Shumway won the tournament. So we had two coaches on. I can actually bring up these, show all the prizes, I suppose. Show everyone. Well, those who were watching the stream anyway and watching on YouTube will be able to see. Hopefully,
Oh yeah,
maybe.
I see. Benbow Baggins, Speak of the Devil, has just hopped in.
He has. Benbow made the journey over from Liverpool. It was great to see him. So this is the overall table. So two lads finished on 3 wins. And the game that was called was Danton and Will Walsh, who took a draw. So Danton could have potentially won the tournament had he beaten Will. Although I think the game state was favouring Will to win the tournament anyway. Well, to win the game, sorry, not the tournament. So
Yes.
I don't know how much of it was like. So they like I called in and I was like grand, and then Will was like, oh, I just want to roll this dice, and then Will had picked up the ball and fecked off. So I think Will was kind of like, oh fuck, I could have won that game. But yeah, so I think it was fine. But both the lads were happy, and Will ended up winning like 2 other prizes anyway. So it was all good. So yeah, you can see
He
the
won
top.
2 prizes.
He won 2 prizes, yeah. If we get on to the actual awards,
I suppose you might as well just go through it there, so rather than being
yeah.
all over the place.
So Shumway won overall. Benbow Baggins came second. Well, Shumway won with his Old World Alliance. Benbow Baggins came second with his Lizardman, and Matt Uxador came third with his Necro, which was really cool. And then most casualties actually got handed down to Will Walsh. So Shumway actually got most casualties. 14-0.
14-0.
Yeah. As Old World Alliance.
Typical Scumway.
Took no casualties in 3 games. Like, I can only imagine what that must feel like.
You'll never know that feeling.
I never will. So yeah, Will Walsh got most Kaz then. Well, second most Kaz, but you know what I mean. And Saigarai, funnily enough, did actually win most touchdowns legitimately. Well, you know, I say legitimately. He may have beaten one of his own lads 5-1. So you know, legitimately in quotations.
It's funny because you know, like one Blood Bowl, they were talking recently about, you know, do you go it easy playing against a child and blah blah blah, and Saigarai's like, no, my own flesh and blood or whatever.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah. 5-1. Yeah. But it was fine because Scalandir actually did win the Stunty Cup anyway. So even though he lost 5-1, he still won the trophy. So that was cool. Best painted, it was very, very close. I managed to find 5 minutes at the end of like
To look at teams.
Yeah, I managed to find 5 minutes to go around and look at teams. There was 3 very good ones that I really liked. And that was Jam Toast, Kalon's Pro Elves, and Holly Binch's Gnomes. I thought they were quite nice as well. And Jam Toast might have had a bit of I don't know, sway in the fact that I just spent 2 hours playing him, so I'd spent 2 hours looking at his team and was like, oh, they're lovely. So I might have been a bit biased by that, in fairness. But you know, we obviously have some really good painters. And then someone has to be the strongest person in the tournament, right? Bringing everyone up. So that went to Oscar, who's Papa Bow's son, with his humans. And then Bozzy Boz's kid, Oshin, got best under 18, and he did pretty well. I think he came in at like, I don't know, top 10 anyway, which was really, really cool. Best team name was really close. Myself and the 2 boys from Millstreet had a discussion about it, but I didn't think anyone was going to beat the eternal creeping dread of a 9-to-5 job. There was a couple,
no, too scary.
There was a couple of close ones, in fairness. But I mean, he was my favorite to win it, and you know, when the other 2 lads basically gave me that one as well, I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. And then Hepsis got most adequate, which is basically your bang average, the person who finished, you know, smack bang in the middle. And then Will Walsh got the most
most adequate.
The most adequate went to Hepsis. And then Will Walsh got Lord of the Dance, which was the person who got the most out of the Lord of the Dance, which was very Will Walsh of him, I felt, actually. So it was actually really, really close.
Of him, that would be to storm through most Kaz by rolling paws and tens. But you know,
it's just true. Yeah. So most people
right to Shumway.
Must have. So a lot of people got touchdowns on Lord of the Dance. And loads of people wrote like funny stories of how like, oh well, I would have won the game had he not rolled, like not snaked the leap or something. And I was like, that's pretty funny. But I think he actually helped Will Walsh win the game with like a touchdown and I don't know, did he say a pass or I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was a touchdown and a completed pass or something. So yeah, that was everyone who got prizes, a lot of prizes. And And Jam Toast pointing out there that I was in fact diced by Lord of the Dance. Yeah, I scored because of him, and then I lost because of him. So great inclusion, and that's why he's banned. He's never showing up again.
That seems fair.
That seems fair. Yeah. Right, and so that's the end of the prizes. Everyone seemed to have a good time. I made a prediction.
You had your fun. That's all that matters.
That's it. Did you make a prediction for me? We were talking about it before the tournament, of who was going to win what
About
prizes.
who was going to win? Or
Yeah.
I didn't, to be honest, because real life was too busy.
Oh,
And also, you know, I didn't know who's going to be best under 18 because I don't know who's under 18 and that kind of crap. If you'd asked me beforehand, yeah, I would have probably said, you know, usual suspects to win: Danton, Will Walsh,
yeah.
Scumway.
Yeah. My
Scumway won, was it 2 or 3 tournaments in a row with OWA?
I think so. Well, this is his second tournament win with OWA. Yeah.
I think this might be his third.
His
He
NAF
won
page would
one
disagree with
above
you.
in the north. And I think he won Bodega Bowl, which was
All right.
Kalon's tournament there just after lockdown.
All right. Well, that's not actually on
So I
his
think this
NAF
is his
page
third,
now.
yeah.
So you know.
Oh,
You know, yeah, might not be actually NAF sanctioned, a bit like that one above in Dublin, you know?
poor old Denton got screwed there, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I actually did make a prediction of who'd win every prize. And I can now reveal that I got 2 right. Although, admittedly, the 2 I got right, I did actually have the final say in picking who won. So, like, that might have been some bias going into the
Best
pecking
name,
too.
so obviously.
Yeah, best name and best painted. Yeah, in fairness. But, like, the best painted, it was only because I knew what Jam Toast was bringing before the tournament. Like, you know, best painted is a really hard one to, like, predict going into it. Because you don't know who's going to show up with what. I suppose... my top 3 were Danton, Will Walsh, and Benbow Baggins. So, you know, I was close. with Benbow. Most Cals,
Well, I mean, the 2 boys were playing on table 3, Denton and Will Walsh, so
they were, so I wasn't far off it.
thereabouts.
Yeah, most casualties, I went fairly safe with Saigorai, because you just can't not pick him for most casualties. And he actually ended up winning most touchdowns. I backed Kalon to get most touchdowns with his Pro Elves. Well, I had a little caveat there for myself in my own head. I thought that Danton would win most touchdowns, but because he was going to win the overall tournament, it was going to pass down to Kalon. But, you know, let me down there. And the guy I picked for best under 18 couldn't actually go. And I backed the Gnomes to win the Stunty Cup because, you know, Gnomes are OP. So that's my predictions. The rest of them don't really matter. Like, the rest of them is like, oh, who's going to win the wooden spoon? Who's going to, like, get the most out of the star player? It's like, okay. You know, it all just depends what happens on the day, like.
So having, with the benefit of hindsight now, you are planning on doing one again next year. So is there anything you'd do differently next year?
Jesus, yeah. So I am going to do one again next year, probably around the same time. It'll either be like the 15th or the 22nd of November. I'm gonna have a look at a different venue. But then again, like, if they end up doing up the venue and like getting the heating and all that going, then the venue is fine. Like, the main problem with the venue is the heating. I suppose more than anything else. You know,
Yes.
if the place if you could actually warm the place up, then the place was fine. You know, there's plenty of space. The toilets are dated, but fuck it, you know, they're grand. And like having the kitchen and all that, you know, so like a couple of people went off, like Kalon took like 5 minutes just to name him. Took like 5 minutes at the start of a round to go and like have some quiet time and like a bit of a cool down. And a couple of the lads went off and did that as well. So it was nice to have a bit of a space for people to do that. So I'll have a look at a venue. Next summer we'll see how things are going. There definitely will be a tournament in North Cork next November. I'm hoping it'll be in Millstreet. But I have a look at a couple of other places nearby. There's a few good venues in like Kanturk and Newmarket and stuff, and I have connections up there. Maybe get myself in there, and sure, look, at the end of the day, we'll put on a tournament. We'll have some fun. We'll roll some dice, and that'll be the main thing.
Few naggins.
Few naggins be grand, exactly. Yeah. Rules pack wise, I've done a draft rules pack for next year already. I mean, I'm not going to post it anywhere for months. I've showed it to a couple of people. It's fine, but like obviously if there's going to be an FAQ or a new edition or whatever, then there's no point in releasing it and be like, well, I'll actually change it. And I also just kind of want to give it as a bit of, well, if I do decide to change or mix it up a bit during the year, I think I'll do it differently. Provisionally at the moment, I've banned all stars and reduced the amount of skills people get. Like, well, just make it a bit more standard, right? Provisionally. I don't know if that'll stay or not. I think of all the tournaments I've been to this year, and I've been to so many with like mega stars allowed, so many with normal stars allowed. You get loads of skills, you get little skills, you get loads of cash, you get little cash. And honestly, like the most fun I had was probably this tournament that was like 1150, no stars, and you get like say 5 tiers, and you get 6, 7, 8, 9 skills. And I think that was the most fun I had. Is it the most, and like in
So what you're saying here is that you're anti-fun.
It's the most fun I had at a tournament, and I played gnomes at that. I don't know. I think I was just thinking about our own rule sets in Ireland as well, right? So if we take a look at Bleed Bowl, obviously rule sets of Bleed Bowl is mental. And that's fine. Like I love going to Bleed Bowl and I love playing it, but like it really promotes people playing tier 4, tier 5, tier 6, right? And like some of the races are a bit different, but whatever. So that was Bleed Bowl. If you take a look at Ashes Bowl, you won Ashes Bowl this year with Skitter Snotlings, which is just mental. It's a mental rules pack. To the point where like Danton's Dacia Bowl is probably the most sane one, which was the Euro Bowl rules this year. Which is fine, but like I'm not saying Danton is going to do the Euro Bowl rules again, but it would just be nice to have I suppose controlled fun. Oh yeah, with pigs, Bozzy Boz, yeah. Yeah, so there's Euro Bowl rules, but everyone gets a beer boar, which is fine. But it's, there's definitely a different market in the tournament for like a non-star 1150, bit more competitive scene, I think. And I'll see what everyone else does throughout the year. Like I don't have to decide on the rules pack until like August or something. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you've plenty of time.
Plenty of time, yeah. It's just something I was thinking about myself, right? And obviously if another tournament crops up, which I hope there will be, and it aims to be like, a very competitive tournament, then I might be like, okay, well, let's everyone have fun. Let everyone take, Michael Flatley. Everyone gets him. It's good to see what's about there. And sure, we have Killarney, right, which is basically an alteration of the Euro Bowl rules.
So I think someone said, and it definitely wasn't me, it's Euro Bowl rules if they were good.
All right, is that it? So yeah, are you going to have? You're not going to have a feedback discussion on your rule sets?
Yeah, I'm just going to open that can of worms. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just modified them and yeah. What was I going to say? Come here to me, so, and that kind of leads me into the last thing I was going to ask you was, what would be your advice to somebody that's listening that's never organised a tournament before?
So you mean you?
Well, say Johnny audience member who we would love if you organised a tournament somewhere.
Yeah. I suppose. Well, I've been talking to a couple of people in the community. Uh, I suppose trying to get them to organize tournaments because I'll come home for whatever tournament we put on, basically. If there's
you'd
if
come
there's,
home for the opening of a shopping bag.
I mean, I would if there's a good deal. If there's a good deal to be had, I'd be home. But no, in fairness, like anything that's NAF sanctioned, I'll be on. I love my tournaments. I'll play anything, and I really want to encourage more people putting on tournaments in the country, so that we can have 5, 6, 7 tournaments a year, and that we all know when it's going to be on, right? I was mentioning to yourself last night, going off topic here, but the Scottish Blood Bowl community released their tournament calendar for the year, for next year. So like it'd just be great to have something like that. But we need more tournaments, we need more TOs. So I suppose what I would say first of all is don't be afraid to ask for help. If you want to put on a tournament, there are hundreds of TOs in the Blood Bowl community, and even people who've never run a tournament before who will easily give you advice on rules packs. Like,
is that another dig at Euroball?
No. Look, I mean, honestly, the hardest part is organizing a venue, right? People will show up. People will show up to a Blood Bowl tournament in a kitchen. Like if you find a countertop with big enough space to put a Blood Bowl board on it, people will show up. They'll have a great time. People are well able to go to tournaments. They're well able to play. They're well able to have fun. You just need to create a space for them, right? Create a space. Get a venue. Get tables and chairs. Heating maybe advised, but I've proved it's not necessary.
Depending on the time of year.
Yeah, depending on the time of the year. Well, air conditioning could be a thing as well, right? But just go there, make a rules pack that's somewhat appealing, but again, apparently that doesn't matter. But yeah, like at the end of the day, take a leap of faith, slip into some DMs. If you're not sure but you want to put on something, then get in touch with someone, right? Like
deodorant is a free gift.
Honestly, deodorant can be a problem in some tournaments, right? I've been to a couple where I've been like, wouldn't mind if deodorant was a free gift here. But no, in fairness, the hygiene isn't really something.
Yeah, it's not fair when they start pulling out the real life disturbing presence, isn't it?
It's true, yeah, and you're trying to play faster just to get away from them. Or whatever. But some people's personalities are a bit like that as well, right? Some people's personalities can be a bit disturbing, and I'd rather not play against some people. But that's a topic for another day, maybe. Yeah, I suppose, look, at the end of the day, you just have to be willing to put on a tournament, right? Be willing to put it on. Be willing to deal with the admin and the logistics. But at the end of the day, like, everyone will give you a hand. There'll be no issues. You just need to be willing to do it.
Yeah, like I mean, as you said, the biggest thing is finding a venue, really, isn't it? Because even a rules pack, you can just take a rules pack from a different tournament, and no one gives a shit. Let's be honest.
You can, yeah, you can, of course. Like, you can literally just use the Eurobowl rules pack. It's not the best in the world, but it's there for everyone to use. Or you could use like
you are going on record as saying it's not the best in the world.
It's not the best in the world, no. It's not the worst in the world either. I've seen plenty of rules pack worse, but like you can literally copy.
So join us next week when Keith is going to itemize the people that he doesn't want to play against and describe how they could have made it worse.
Exactly. That sounds like a great episode 3. Yeah, I think that's just the main thing, right? finding a venue, unless like you happen to own a game shop or something, can be the hardest part. Um, so once you nail down a venue, everything else is easy, right? At least in my
Did
opinion.
you find it hard sorting out the Lord of the Dance minis, prizes, that kind of stuff?
Um, yeah, I suppose there is. I I tried to give away as many prizes as possible. Um, because main right. So I suppose mainly because the venue hire was really cheap, right? I had very little like costs. So basically I put all my money into giving away prizes for people. So like we had the Deep Cut Studio pitch and stuff, right? So I had to pay like these sponsorships that they just give you stuff. That didn't happen with the pitches. I had to pay like I don't know, I got like 20% off or something, which wasn't great. Like the pitches are still quite expensive, like to the point where the pitch almost cost me more than the venue, which is mental. Um, and then the Lord of the Dance was pretty costly as well, right? I had to get the mini designed. There was a bit of cost in that, and the printing of the minis and all that. There was a bit of cost in that as well. Not too much, but yeah. I mean, for an exact example, right? The design of the mini and the printing cost me double, if not triple, what the venue cost, which is just bonkers, right? But because the venue was so cheap, I had no issue in allocating money elsewhere for the tournament. So I wanted people to come and get
Yeah.
something, which is why at
And not
Eurovision.
every tournament would have to pay someone to design a mini, because I'd imagine that would take a bit of time. Bearing in mind,
Oh
I know
yeah,
fuck all about it, but
yeah, of course.
I
Like
imagine it's not sitting down in some sort of computer program for half an hour and just throwing something together.
no, there was a good bit of back and forth and a few alterations and things here and there. Um, so like I mean, for example, I could have just given like a word answer proxy away, right? Like just gone online, go to like Ugly Minis or something, pick a war dancer and go, right, we'll have that and he'll be the Lord of the Dance. Like it would have been so simple and so cheap to do, but I just wanted something that was like completely unique and no one else will get it anywhere else, right? So it was pretty cool. And I also wanted to
Yeah.
support the guys over at Egima Minis. I'm not really quite sure how to pronounce that, but lovely fella. He designed the Leprechaun Kickstarter team, which we were giving away one of the minis
Yes.
for at Ashes Bowl. So it was good to support a friend of the community, give him a bit of business with the designing and everything. And then our good friend Tulian, when he's not on his agenda and pissing in cornflakes, he's not bad at the printing. So he printed 40 of them for us. Thanks, Kaylan. um, yeah, so it was pretty cool. Xylophone, yeah, that's how it's pronounced. What was I gonna say? So yeah, so like most tournaments will have what, 6 prizes, something like that. We had 13 because like I didn't provide lunch. The venue was very cheap. So all my money went into prizes and designing of the mini and giving stuff back. Which I think is what should be prioritized, right? But at the same time, if the venue is going to cost you €600 to run the event, then you have very little budget for anything else. So I didn't want to,
Yeah.
like I looked into giving like lunch and stuff, but with Centre across the road and people had the choice. They could go over and they could get a roll and they could get whatever they want. I thought that was a bit better than say
Well, look, in
providing
fairness, like I
pizzas.
mean, any tournament you go to, if you wanted to, like, you could, bring a bag of sandwiches with you.
Yeah, you can of course. Um, and like like there's vegetarian options, vegan options. Oh, I don't like margarita pizza or whatever, and it's like, okay, well, I've spent all this money on the food, and they go to Centre anyway. So I just thought it was better to like knock a fiver off the entry, not having to deal with the lunch, and then people can sort themselves out. So I think that was fine.
So, long story short, anyway, you weren't out of pocket or anything.
No, no. I didn't make money. I lost money on the tournament, but that was, I mean, most of that went to designing the miniatures and getting it right and the prizes. But I mean, next year if I was to do the Lord of the Dance, I'd have like a load of money. If I just did the exact same tournament next year, giving out the same mini, I'd have like a bunch of money left over. But I mean, look, for the amount of money I lost, I don't know, it was like what, €30 or something. Literally doesn't make any difference to me. Clad by, I, for example,
All right, money bags.
well, you know what I mean, like
Scrooge McDuck over here, or is that reference too old for you?
well, in fairness, right, say it was €30, right? I didn't pay to play in my own tournament, and I didn't make Cladboy pay because he painted the minis and he did the train run. So if I'd gotten those two entry fees, then I would have essentially made a tenner profit or whatever. But look, at the end of the day, it's not like I lost like 100 or 200 quid on it, but it's not like I made 100 or 200 quid. I don't know the exact. I don't know the exact finances. Like I might have made like €10 or whatever. I haven't looked at it properly yet. Because I haven't actually paid for the venue. I'm hoping they message me at some point and ask for the money, but when I eventually
look, you're after giving so much of your life being devoted to Millstreet GA, so I think they owe you.
Well, I mean, this is it. I used to be on the team, and then they kicked me off it for not being good enough. So, sucks to be them.
Pricks,
right? Come on, I wanted to be the
so
ball
we're adding
boy.
the entirety of Millstreet GA against as people you don't want to play against.
In fairness, well, no, if they're playing Blood Bowl, I'd like to play them. Free wins. It's pretty good.
Free wins.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind 20 or 30 free wins.
The tournament, not that bad.
No, it's not that bad. It was a little hectic on the day, but next year it'll be a lot smoother. And I look forward to it. It definitely wouldn't put me off running a tournament, and hopefully anyone I talk to, it hasn't put them off running a tournament, including yourself. I look forward to your first foray into tournament organization.
Do you know, I need to pull the finger out now because I need to start up prizes and shit. But like it's fine. As you say, like the venue is the hardest thing because I don't know.
You sort the venue and sort the dates.
Accommodate it, and
it's the main thing.
Yeah.
So you'll be fine though. Bit of prizes,
sure.
few naggins.
What's the worst that could happen?
Well, I mean, you could sort no prizes. Everyone could pay money. The venue could cancel. And then everyone shows up on the day with nowhere to play Blood Bowl.
Oh, I could just take the money and just leave the country.
You could.
Yeah. You covered Crowley.
I don't know if you get far now though. You stole the money. I don't know if it's worth leaving the country over like €400 or €500 like.
Speak for yourself. No, the grant.
Yeah. So have you anything? Any other Eurovision questions, or do we want to wrap it up? Bit of a shorter episode.
I suppose that kind of covers everything. He's off to the Japans. That's but that's not till Easter.
Oh.
I'm going to the Japans in Easter.
Oh, very good. Is that before or after your tournament? Just so I know.
That's after.
After. So you are actually taking all the money
a month after, yeah,
from Blood Bowl, and you're leaving the country.
And I do plan on leaving the country.
This is it now. So you're telling me if Killarney Team Championships gets cancelled in February, not to be surprised. I got you.
Oh, that's a good point. I should add in a yoke into the rules saying no refunds.
Yeah, no refunds, yeah. if it's 6 weeks before the tournament, no refunds. And then cancel it 4 weeks out.
Kaelon wants to know if you have any thoughts on Kick.
I do. I'm not going to tell him though.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Playing his cards very close to his chest.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, of course, we mentioned Bleed Bowl is happening. 25th and 26th of January. That's, I suppose, the next one in Ireland as we wrap down the Eurovision episode, I suppose, for this year. Who knows if we're still doing dice again this time next year? We might have episode 25 Eurovision Bowl 2. So Eurovision Bowl 2 is actually going to be called What's Another Year, because I thought that was quite funny. Another J Hall in Blackrock. That's it. Yeah, we're actually going to the National Hurling Centre in Blackrock for Bleed Bowl. We have a good few Scots coming over. We've 2 or 3 English lads as well, and Jock is one of those 2. I never quite sure whether he's English or Scottish. But yeah, so that's the 25th and 26th of January. It'll be good fun.
You just want to piss in everybody's cornflakes today, don't you?
I do, yeah. I really woke up and decided I wanted to be Tulian this morning.
So how can I offend the most possible Blood Bowl people?
Yeah, God, this is what it must feel like to be Purple Chest. It's amazing. But anyway, so that'll pretty much.
So anyway, yeah, Bleed Bowl, 25th and 26th of January in Cork.
That's the one.
We have an international airport. It's handy to get to. I'd say, given the venue, I don't think there'll be a cap on attendance.
No, I'd imagine not. No. Hopefully we get to about.
It's
50.
definitely a fun rules pack.
Fun. Yeah. So what I was actually thinking, I've not spoken to him at all, but I was hoping, but after Bleed Bowl we might have Fiki on for an episode, to talk about Bleed Bowl and, so obviously the Bleed Bowl rules pack hasn't evolved massively, I suppose, from the previous year. I suppose it has the same core mechanics and the same core idea. So I thought it might be an idea to get him on, if he wants. Obviously, if that episode doesn't happen, then Fiki's told me
Hold on a second. No. People, Holy Vince now taking issue with Cork being an international airport. Surely, if it only flies domestically, it's a domestic airport, and then if it flies to other countries, it's an international airport.
That's it.
No?
You've literally had the definition.
I mean, that makes sense up to me, no?
That's it. Yeah. For sure. Look, anywhere that flies
maybe
out of
people
Cork.
involved in aviation would have a different idea,
But sure, we have the People's Republic of Cork, right? So if it flew to Dublin, it'd be international.
This is true, yeah. It's technically a different country.
It basically is. Yeah, I have no idea what I was saying.
Fiki has his. You were on about Fiki coming on for an episode, and that it's the second year of it's kind of a teamed rule set, basically.
Yeah, I suppose
he's got
he has his own unique twist on things, and it's a good rules pack. I like it. It's a lot of fun. Every time I show it to someone, though, it's like, wow, this rules pack is not great. But
do you know what? It seems completely off the wall until you actually sit down and think about what you're going to do, and then it's actually fine.
It's actually fine, but it does mean that there's a lot of teams that aren't necessarily viable in it. Like, they're viable, but you essentially can take the meta build, which means they're not viable, and Amazons, for example, are getting 6 skills, whereas Chaos Renegades are getting 14. But yeah, that is very true, Kaelan. Everyone thinks it's a terrible rule set until people actually sit down and start making rosters, and I agree. But
you say that now, but I would say last year didn't Rags take Amazons to Bleed Bowl, and I would say he definitely finished top 6 or so. And there was maybe 26 people at that tournament.
Sure, but he took Glottal Stop Zons, right? But he basically took his same Euro Bowl build to Bleed Bowl, so nothing changed for him, right? But anyway, right? Not to be like, well, you're right and I'm wrong, but Bleed Bowl will have its own episode, hopefully. This was Eurovision Bowl. So maybe we'll save the rest of the Bleed Bowl discussion for an actual Bleed Bowl episode.
No.
No? Okay, great.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I suppose that's kind of the crack, so isn't it?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, we would love if there was a bit more put on in the Irish calendar.
Maybe. I suppose
Like, we're going all right now, you know. So you did Eurovision in November. We've nothing in December.
No, but that's
we
fine.
Bleed Bowl in January. We had the Clarny Team Cup in March.
We do. Ashes provisionally is going to happen in April.
Oh yeah, I might miss that. Sick.
Yeah.
Dates
to be confirmed
yeah,
and all that.
And then of course, fingers crossed, Denton will run Dacia Bowl in July again.
Yeah. So like we could do it a couple of more, right? We could do it another 2 or 3 tournaments. It'd be good to have off
a
the
couple
ball
of months
back,
there.
Kaelon.
Just do it a bit of a filling.
For sure. Obviously Jason had some work stuff this summer, so couldn't put on off the ball on, but hopefully next year. I mean, yeah, like look,
is
all
off the
you
ball
need.
official?
It's first I've heard that it's going to be back on, but yeah, one day in Cork could be pretty cool. But yeah, I suppose I don't want to let this episode get on too long, so just wrap it up there. Just thank everyone for listening. Been great having everyone here. Thanks for watching and listening to episode 1. I'm not quite sure what episode 3 will be yet. We were hoping to do one about maybe the Irish captaincy and maybe a look forward towards Euro Bowl 2025 before Christmas. I don't know if that's going to happen due to other stuff happening in Ireland. I said that as if we were like in the middle of a civil war or something, which I suppose we are really, aren't we? You know, there's a vote for the captaincy. The civil war is here. I'm joking, of course, but yeah, it's not quite sure what episode 3 will be yet. It might in fact just be Bleed Bowl, depending on whether or not myself and Crowdog can think of anything. Other than that,
no, that'd be a good idea. Invite yourself and Dan on. I'll moderate and.
Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it? It would be pretty cool. It would be pretty cool, honestly, to have like the Q&A live, right? Where like the channel's open now.
Because as well, of course, like this is it's uncharted territory for us, isn't it? It's the first time we've voted for a captain or anything, so.
Yeah. So it is pretty new, and all that. Like it's cool to be part of like the first vote and the first manifestos and Q&A. But because it is the first time, there are some teething issues. So they'll all be ironed out. I suppose just in the meantime, anyone who is considering about Euro Bowl 2025, definitely think about it. I think both myself and Dan were hoping to have expressions of interest open by now, but there's been some delays in the vote and stuff for captaincy. So maybe by the end of December they'll be open. Who's to say? But definitely have a think about it. If you want to go, the final rules pack is now posted. It's in the Euro Bowl, NAF Euro Bowl, Euro Open channel. Or you know, if you just want to message myself or Kaelon or Crowdog or Danton or Raging82 or whoever you want to get in touch. You know, there's questions. If it's going to be your first time, get them out there. But until the next episode.
Yeah, like the only thing you'd like, you know, just to be like, you know, if people were thinking of traveling, like it's a great time to have a tournament. You know, it's the end of January, accommodation will be cheap. You just have those couple of weeks after Christmas to save a bit of cash. And the crack will be good. Yeah.
I was talking about Euro Bowl 2025, but no, it's good to get in there. But the Bleed Bowl again, good man.
Yeah, come here. Don't mind Eurovision 2025. That's years away.
I said Euro Bowl. Go away. Right, everyone.
Euro Bowl. Oh, sorry.
this That's this co-caster's gonna have to go, honestly.
Wait, are those my feet?
Yeah. How's the cow on Discord? Is he fine? Good man.
I was going to say, yeah, so fingers crossed we'll be back in 2 weeks with some shite talk, and
that's it. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks everyone. That was episode 2, Eurovision Ball. We'll catch you all in the next one.